Hello guys, welcome back to Writer's Tales. This is an introduction to The Last Adventures. This is a sort of franchise type thing that I've been planning for about 3 years, believe it or not, 3 years in the making, along with the 50 Situations line. This is another thing that I've been working on at the same time, simultaneously with the line I'm talking about at the moment. So, pretty interesting stuff this is. This is a spin-off. This is to Doctor Who. So it's a Doctor Who spin-off. Well, kind of. It's basically Doctor Who, but it's done in a totally different way, where it's, with elements and everything else. And first things first, there's no Doctor in it, strangely. No companions, no returning Doctors, no new Doctor or anything like that. It doesn't, no supporting characters from the franchise's history. It's all sort of new. This is new territory. Instead, we have 20 characters who are the main protagonists, of course. I'll do a slideshow, of course, to indicate what's going on. There you go. So that's one thing to put out. Also, well, how do these come about? This come about really. So when I was doing Private Nostalgia back in 2017, I found my old fan stories, my old Doctor Who fan stories I had written back in 2012, strangely, and I decided to transcribe them. I did. There's quite a few old ones. I'll discuss which ones will be and how they deviate from the original source material that I had back at the time. So I found them, and I obviously transcribed them and I rejiggered them. While I was doing that, I was doing Path to Nostalgia as well, and some strange reason they started blending into each other. There are other factors as well that sort of including what was that? There was somebody with Mark Kermode talking about a few moves, of course, and one of them he mentioned was very Doctor Who-like, really. And he thinks, it's very like a Doctor Who movie in some places, really. And it's like, that's all stuck with me. It's like something then it clicked. And it's like, so this works. So these characters from TV shows from 60s to the 90s, of course, are basically included. Originally, there was plenty more, of course, but I had to slim it down because you can't have too many characters in one as a community. There could be... I think the original idea was to do it in separate groups, or you can have like this character in this adventure, another one. I thought I'd try that for a bit, but it didn't really work out. So I ended up picking 20 characters. Ones that I fondly remember the most, of course, that I remember fondly from back in the day. And some new ones that are quite short. They're very unique in their own way, really. Ones I've never seen. So it's like, I could really pick them. And in the slideshow, you've probably seen what was really included, really. So 20 characters, of course. Throughout, and it's really interesting because it's, well, one main inspiration for this series comes from the New Adventures, or the VNAs, the Virgin New Adventures, really, because I've been reading those. I've been actually really getting into them for about 2 years now, actually. So it's changed my outlook on Doctor Who since then, really, because it's the storytelling there is actually pretty interesting, very in-depth and very out there in terms of what they were doing. I mean, because in the 90s, of course, this novel range, of course, was more geared for adults in terms of its themes and stuff like more graphic detail and violence, sex, language, you know, that sort of thing. That sort of thing you can expect for a teenager to really enjoy and dig in, really. You know, for someone who's in their 20s, of course, it's ideal. It's an ideal thing to go into, really. A lot of people tend to show this under the carpet, of course. It's a very underrated portion of the Wilderness series, very much. That's never been really covered as much. You know, there's been a few bits and pieces that have been covered, like Pop Arena, who's covered the first 21 books so far. Who else? Someone called Mr. G Day, something. The G Day, the GD or something. I forgot his name now. Has been reviewing them. I think he's done the first 15 so far and done the first 5 misadventures as well. So, yeah, and just a few people as well, really. You know, just like showing off what they got, really. But it's an interesting series to get into, really, and that really was the catalyst for the Last Adventures. Originally, the working title was called The New Adventurers. Of course, it was a nice little play on the New Adventures, really. But I changed it to The Last Adventures because of its theming, of its how the series pans out and how the stories interlinked, of course. Half of it's old stuff that I've used before. Some of the stuff came from old fan fiction and a few old fan series that never came off the ground either. So, and a lot of new stuff as well that I sort of, you know, I took a lot of inspiration from, of course, sometimes from movies, events, and looking at it through history, see what stuff that Doctor Who has never been seen before. I mean, there might be a couple of unmade stories that actually have been realised into this series, of course, but we'll get there eventually. We'll definitely get there. But I've been working on this for about 3 years. It's chopped and changed, of course, but the final product itself is here, and I'm finally willing to show you it. I did showcase a document like a multi-page, well, like a 6-part guide, really. Well, I've done the first 3 on Facebook. If you follow me on the, if you are on the Cosgrove Hall Wednesday Willers Facebook page, you notice I've been posting some guides on that thing, of course. I've done the first 3, like the first half of it, really. You know, just displaying the stories, of course, and also displaying a few points of what is to be included in this one. But here, you'll get more detail with it because, you know, for me, this is what I like doing about YouTube, just explaining stuff, of course, that is more relevant. Because I think if you type stuff up, sometimes it doesn't get transcribed well. In my opinion, it does. Well, when I do it, of course, it sort of gets vaguely. Some stuff doesn't get vaguely mentioned, but here, you definitely get more output. Of course, when I talk about it, it's like you think there's going to be a lot more detail to it. So that's what Rise Tales is here for. You know, just display my writing, you know, escapades, of course, and what to expect, of course. So that is what you're gonna get. I don't know how many are going to cover on here. Well, there's going to be a lot actually on this one. So Last Adventure is going to take the bulk up on Writer's Tales, of course. But I will try and split them out evenly, of course. Depends where I could stop at, really. So it'll be pretty interesting. So that is it, really, with The Last Adventurers. I will be doing them from now on Rise Tales. I will go back to the 50 situation line, you know, when the amount is ready. Do more of those stories, then come back to The Last Adventurers bit by bit, of course. So have a little portion of that. Go back to discuss the 50 stories, of course. Go back to Last Adventurers, then see where it goes from there. But it's going to be a really interesting insight on what stories I've written, of course. Like Doctor Who stories that are quite different from what the television show. Also, some maybe novels as well or audio have never done before, really. So I'm looking forward to discussing and explaining to you what to expect and what there is, which will be really fascinating. So thank you guys for watching, as always. See you for the next video, and The Last Adventurers has arrived.